Before the great houses of Westeros, before the kings, the banners, the castles, and the wars for the Iron Throne, there was an age almost forgotten by men. An age when Westeros was still wild. Its forests stretched farther than any kingdom ever would. Its rivers ran through lands untouched by roads. Its hills, valleys, caves, and ancient woods belonged not to men, but to the children of the forest. For thousands of years, the children lived in harmony with the land. They carved faces into the weirwood trees. They worshipped the old gods. They knew the secret language of leaf and root, stream and stone. But across the narrow sea, beyond the lands that would one day be called Essos, another people were moving west. They were taller, stronger, more numerous. And unlike the children, they did not hide beneath the trees. They crossed into Westeros with bronze weapons in their hands, horses beneath them, and fire in their hearts. They were the first men. According to the oldest legends, the first men came from Essos over a great land bridge known as the Arm of Dorne. In those days, Westeros and Essos were not divided as they are now. The southern edge of Westeros was connected to the eastern continent, and through that passage, mankind entered the land. They came not as one small tribe, but as many peoples, clans, warriors, hunters, herders, families, and chieftains. They brought with them their own gods, their own language, their own customs, and their own hunger for land. To the first men, Westeros was a vast new world, a world of forests to cut, fields to claim, stone to build with, rivers to cross, and enemies to defeat. But to the children of the forest, the coming of men was not the beginning of civilization. It was an invasion. The first men did not understand the sacred bond between the children and the weirwood trees. To them, trees were wood. Wood became fire. Wood became homes. Wood became walls, tools, and weapons. So they cut them down. And when they cut the weirwoods, they did more than destroy trees. They attacked the heart of the children's world. The carved faces and the white trunks were sacred. The red leaves were symbols of the old gods. The weirwoods were memory, worship, and magic all at once. Every tree that fell was a wound, and soon the land itself was at war. The children were few in number, but they were not helpless. They knew the forests better than any man could. They struck from the shadows. They used traps, hidden paths, and the ancient powers of the earth. Some stories say their green seers could look through the eyes carved into the weirwoods. Some say they could speak to beasts, bend nature, and call upon powers older than mankind itself. The first men had bronze blades, shields, spears, and horses. The children had the forest. And for years beyond counting, the war continued. The first men pushed deeper into Westeros. They crossed rivers and mountains. They claimed valleys, plains, and coasts. They burned sacred groves and built settlements where ancient woods had once stood. But the children fought back in ways men could barely understand. The most famous legend tells of the breaking of the Arm of Dorne. When the first men continued to pour into Westeros, the children gathered their green seers and called upon a terrible power. With magic, they shattered the land bridge that connected Westeros to Essos. The sea rushed in. The passage was broken, and what remained would one day be known as the Stepstones. But even this did not stop mankind. The first men were already in Westeros, and they were spreading. From the warm southern lands to the cold and distant north, they carved their place into the continent. They raised ring forts and hill forts. They marked borders. They followed strong leaders. And slowly, the first men became the dominant people of Westeros. Yet victory was not simple. The children could not drive the first men back into the sea. But the first men could not truly destroy the children either. The war had scarred both peoples. The forests had burned. The weirwoods had fallen. The first men had lost warriors, families, and generations to a conflict they could not fully understand. And then, after centuries of bloodshed, something changed. The two peoples chose peace. On a small island in the center of the great lake called the God's Eye, the children of the forest and the first men came together. That island was the Isle of Faces. There, beneath the gaze of countless weirwood faces, the pact was made. It was one of the most important agreements in the history of Westeros. The first men would keep the open lands, the coasts, the plains, the mountains, and the fields. The children would keep the deep forests. And most importantly, the first men swore that they would no longer cut down the weirwood trees. To seal the pact, every weirwood on the island was carved with a face so the old gods could witness the promise. For the first time since the arrival of men, Westeros knew peace. But the pact did more than end a war. It changed the first men forever. Over time, the first men began to abandon the gods they had brought from Essos. They accepted the old gods of the children. They came to worship before the heart trees. They learned to fear and respect the deep woods. The ancient religion of the children became the faith of the first men, and that faith would survive for thousands of years. Long after the children faded from the world. Long after the Andals crossed the sea. Long after kingdoms rose and fell. The old gods would still be worshipped in the north. The Starks of Winterfell, the mountain clans, the free folk beyond the wall, all of them carried pieces of the first men's legacy. Their bloodlines, their customs, their belief in honor, oath, guest right, and ancient law. The first men were not just the first humans to settle Westeros. They became the roots of many of its oldest houses. House Stark claimed descent from the first men. So did many northern families whose names would echo through history. The Umbers, the Karstarks, the Mormonts, the Reeds, the Blackwoods, and many more. In the south, the coming of the Andals would later change much of Westeros. New gods would come, new kingdoms would rise. Steel would replace bronze, the faith of the Seven would spread. But in the north, the memory of the first men remained strong. The north remembered. It remembered the old gods, it remembered the weirwoods, it remembered the ancient promises made beneath the red leaves, and it remembered that before the Iron Throne, before the Seven Kingdoms, before dragons ever crossed the sky, men had first come to Westeros with bronze in their hands and war in their hearts. But they did not remain only conquerors, they became part of the land. The first men arrived as strangers. They fought the children. They broke forests. They carved kingdoms from wilderness. But through war, loss, and finally peace, they became something greater. They became the first human civilization of Westeros, and their story would shape everything that came after, because the pact between the children and the first men was not the end of the ancient age. It was only the beginning of a new one. An age of heroes, an age of legends, an age where names like Bran the Builder, Garth Greenhand, Lan the Clever, and the Grey King would rise from myth. But beyond those legends, beyond the songs and stories of the Age of Heroes, an even darker chapter waited in the distance. A winter unlike any before it, a night that would last a generation. And when that darkness came, the first men and the children of the forest would have to face it together. For the true enemy was not across the sea. It was in the cold, in the silence, in the lands beyond the edge of the world. And it was coming.